Hey guys, this is David Wynn with the Mortgage Edge podcast, brought to you by Click and Close Mortgage. Today, I got a special guest coming to you from Houston, Texas, George, or you can call him Jorge Maldonado. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, David. Thank you again for having me on the show. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So we bring on top agents from across the country on here. Everybody knows you're a top agent, but let's talk a little bit about you and Houston and everything else. So, how long have you been a realtor?
It will be 3 years next month.
3 years, you rookie. You're a rookie, but you're not really a rookie. So let's kind of talk about your background, how you got into it, and stuff like that. Because you got a very interesting story. You work for the state legislature, or do you work for Congress?
Yeah, United States Congress.
The U.S. Congress. Okay, let's talk about that. What'd you do for them? How long did you work for them? What'd you do for them?
Yeah, so I was the liaison for U.S. Congressman Gene Green. Lights kind of went off here for no activity. Hold on.
No worries.
Yeah, I worked for Congressman Gene Green for about 6, 7 years. I was his liaison. So basically, when he was out of the district and in D.C., I basically had to fulfill his duties and go to different community events, deal with the federal briefings, things of that sort. Relay communication with the constituents, which in my opinion was the most important part, because if they're not happy, they're not going to vote for him. So we had to do whatever we could to make them happy, which honestly was just do the right things. They needed help with federal agencies. They needed to do their job. We were just on them and make sure they did their job to help our constituents.
How do you get a job like that? Are you political science major or what? How do you get a liaison for a congressman?
So it's funny. So I never thought I was going to get this job. I have a friend that I met my senior year of college. I went to Sam Houston State University, double majored in economics and international business, and I was part of the International Business Society. And we had a new member. She had just transferred over to Sam Houston. Really sweet, timid, quiet, very intelligent, and I kind of showed her around. Had her reach out to different organizations, and I guess we hit it off, and she ended up graduating at the top of her class, but she was interning with the congressman. And a year later, no, it was like 2, 3 years later after I graduated, 2 years later after graduating, she was like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" And I said, "Well, I'm working for a Spanish newspaper company as a account executive. What's going on?" She's like, "Well, the liaison is leaving to a better opportunity in D.C., and this position opened up." She was like, "I think you do a great job." So I thought she was joking. I don't have political science major. Wasn't really at that time involved with politics. So I didn't think I was going to get the position. She says, "You know what? You're going to do great. Send me your resume. I'll get you an interview." I said, "Okay." Send it in. I was sitting next to people who had law degrees. Everybody there was a political science major. But I think, according to her, what sealed the deal was we had similar upbringings and backgrounds. The congressman was a business major at U of H. I was a business major. He played football. I played football. He actually worked for a newspaper company before he became a congressman, and I was actually coming from working for a newspaper company. So he was from the Aldine area. I lived actually in that specific area for a few years, and I guess we just clicked. Very humble guy, down to earth. What you see is what you get, and I guess both our personalities meshed, because it was a done deal. He went ahead and hired me. I didn't expect it. I thought they were joking whenever I got that email, but I really appreciate that opportunity that he gave me, because I learned a lot. Great guy.
That's awesome. 6 or 7 years. And I'm always curious. So he actually interviewed you himself. It wasn't like a staff member that interviewed you or whatever.
Yeah, so it was 3 interviews. So the last one, he was sitting with us. The first one and the second one was the chief of staff, and she kind of ran the day to day behind the scenes. But I guess she saw the same thing as my colleague from college and said, "You know what, y'all have similar stories. I think you do great. He'd like you, and I think he'd like you representing him on behalf of Congress for constituents."
So you were there 6 or 7 years, and then why'd you leave? What happened? Why'd you get into real estate? Why not continue on with that, or was it just the time to move on, or what?
No, actually, the congressman actually announced that he was going to retire. At that time, he was 70 years old. He had 2 beautiful grandchildren. He wanted to spend more time with the family. As you know, when you're up and down in D.C. every week, it takes a toll on you. And you kind of spend time away from your family, right? So he was ready to retire and spend more time with his family. So when that happened, I was kind of poached, recruited, whatever you want to call it, by a government contracting firm that was trying to get a bid on a government housing program from Harris County, and we actually helped with that bill where we sent $5 billion to the state of Texas, the General Land Office during Hurricane Harvey. So the
Oh wow.
congressman went ahead and said, you know what, we need help, we need funds to help people in the region to recover from these disastrous floods. And once the money went through, obviously they needed these firms to go ahead and help with dispersing and trying to get people involved with receiving those money, people who actually suffered from Hurricane Harvey. So they hired me because they knew that I knew about the bill, the monies that were allocated, and not just that, but I was really heavily involved with our constituents. Basically, all the major community leaders, they knew who I was. They knew I was the person that got things done on behalf of the congressman. So they thought it was a good fit for me to help with that program. Um, and basically, I made every community that was impacted by the floods aware of this program, so they got to receive help, which was much needed.
Was it a government subsidy, a federal grant? What was it?
It was, yeah, it was a federal grant that was given. It did not have to be repaid. So basically, FEMA they allocated those $5 billion to the state of Texas because not just Houston was impacted. There were some coastal regions that were impacted
Hmm.
as well. So, but I was
Yeah.
I was helping just in the Houston and Harris County area at that time.
Yeah, because a lot of when you go into that, a lot of people don't know where to go look, right? People
Yeah.
don't know where to get help. So your job was to get the word out to the constituents. Is that right?
Yes, yes, sir. That marketing, communications, translations, kind of deciphering and translating, not specifically Spanish, but translating government lingo and language
Yeah.
to regular everyday Americans. Because I mean, some of them, uh, when the government wants to get wording out there, it's kind of difficult sometimes, right? Because people are like, "Hey, what does that mean?" And basically, I just going like, "They're going to give you money to help fix up your house. You deserve it. It's your money. You're a taxpayer. You deserve it. Just get in your
Yeah.
hands. Let's get you and family right, and let's take care of you."
All right. Well, let's fast forward to 3 years ago. You go from government contractor, all of a sudden now you're a realtor. How'd that happen?
So that was another unique transition. So I had a 4-year contract with that government contracting firm to help that program. The last amount of those monies from the $5 billion were to help people that stay and live in a flood zone. Basically, the county was going to purchase their properties and relocate them to whatever properties they want to move forward with and purchase on their own. So that was the last part of the program. My 4-year contract ended once that was kind of rolling out. I basically trained the county, how to do their job and get everything right and how to relay that information to those specific people that are in flood zones, and inform them about this program that's available for them. There was a lot of pushback at first just because they didn't understand. So when I came in and thoroughly informed them that this is actually a good program, that they are going to have to sell their house to the county, but they're going to move to something better that they choose for in any other area that they want. It's just basically a safety precaution by the county so that they're out of the flood zone and stop getting flooded every time there's heavy rain. So, so once that happened, I got involved with the program, and then that came to an end. Right before it came to an end, I actually had gotten my real estate license because I wanted to be an investor. I had my primary home, but I started thinking about my retirement already, just because I got word that there may not be Social Security for whenever I'm, up there in age. So I said, you know what, let me create my own Social Security and have maybe rental properties, and they'll be paid off by the time I'm ready to retire. That way my family isn't in need of money, and we're good once I'm at retirement age.
Well, let's talk about that. So, real estate, you got into the flood zone, helping those. That's how you started getting into real estate. So you bought your first investment property how long ago? 5 years ago?
Well, the first one was 3 years ago.
Okay, so 3 years ago, and now you have five.
Yeah.
So five properties in 3 years. That's a lot, dude.
Yeah.
how did people always want to know, how'd you afford it? You know, with a,
Yeah.
can, can you give some secrets, some secrets out there to the people that want to invest?
So part of it is actually getting well informed. So for the longest, I tried to purchase properties using other realtors. As we know, in every sector, in every job, every industry, there's hard workers with good work ethic, and do a good job, and there's some that don't have the best work ethic and aren't as good as communicating, right? So, unfortunately, I lost out on two deals before I became a realtor, and that led me to get my own license and work my own deals. Um, I had a uncle that always said, if you want things done right, you got to do it yourself. So then I got the license, and then I started acquiring properties. But um, as far as the real estate side and how I became a realtor, that initiated with a little bit of push, motivation, and a little bit of a shove from the county themselves. So once I was no longer with the program because my contract had ended, they found out that I had my license, and a lot of the community leaders had reached out asking for me. So there's a little bit of uproar with the constituents and residents that were still part of the program because I basically held everyone's hand, walked them through the program because it's very tedious, a lot of red tape, and it's a 2-month process once you know which property you want to move to. So they no longer had that. So once the county found out that I had my license, they thought it would be a good fit. That if some of these community leaders and people in the program wanted someone that they could trust to help them purchase their new home, that they could reach out to me. And so a lot of the community leaders found out, and then we had a joint meeting with all the community leaders in the different areas, and they said, we want you to be the guy that helps us find the next property for us in the neighborhood. So I agreed to it, and not everyone, because obviously I went in and spoke to everybody in the program and said, you don't have to use me as a realtor. I said, but just make sure that anybody that you use is knowledgeable about the program more than anything, because if they don't do things right, they could possibly lose their benefits. And I didn't want that to happen, you know. And then that's literally where my company, my business blew up. It went from me
Right.
just trying to look at investment properties on my own to a lot of people reaching out to me saying, we trust you, we like you, we believe in you, help us find the next house. This is what we want. So,
That's awesome, bro. What a great story. And today, as we look at it, I know you're bilingual, George. What percentage of your clientele is bilingual or Spanish?
I'd say maybe about 70% are Hispanic or Spanish speakers.
Okay. That's awesome. So let's talk about a little bit about. Can you give us a glimpse of the investment side of it? Everybody wants to invest, but not everybody has money. What do you tell people that want to invest but don't have money? Because you're not a wealthy man. You have a good, but to acquire 5 properties in 3 years is no small feat. So how do you tell someone that, how do you get started in investing? If you How much money do you need to have to start with? Let's start with that. For the people that say, hey, how do I get started?
Yeah, and I always tell clients I may sound like a lawyer, but I always tell them it depends. So usually I try to set up a meeting, a consultation with my client and his family to kind of see what their goals are, where they're at financially. That way we can kind of create a plan using the resources that they currently have. But one of the first steps I always tell them is we need to partner up with an amazing lender like you, David, and your
Yep.
team to find out what options we have, what resources are there, because every 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 investment property may need a different type of program, right? You mentioned DSCR. Some of them may have cash out of pocket that they want to use because it may be a long-term project and they don't want to spend too much in interest. Or there may be other programs like you mentioned about, the wife can purchase 10 properties and he could purchase 10 properties on his own, stuff like that. So there's different programs available. But the first step I always tell them is let's connect it with David so we can see what options are available out there for you so we can see what we can do. First step is financing. Once we know where the number's at, then I can kind of figure out how much money they'll need and the price point they need to be, and then figure out the return on investment, cash flow, depending on if it's going to be Airbnb or rental or flip, things of that sort. So without that consultation, I really can't help them.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. Um, and in this day and age, there's a lot of you deal with a lot of investors now. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I mean, the market's starting to get hot again. You know, for a while there in 2024, no one was buying properties, not even investors, because interest rates were are through the roof. You know, we'll talk about that a little bit. Even though interest rates are still climbing now, the market's moving. You know, December was the busiest December in 4 or 5 years for listings and also for under contracts. You know, people are as I talk to people today, it's January the 10th on a Friday, and there's a lot of people activity in real estate right now. Usually, you know, this time of year is kind of quiet and dead.
Yeah. No, and you're right. You know, it was kind of slow the month of December, right? Just because of the holidays and people traveling or whatnot, it was kind of slow. Literally, once the holiday break was over, I got 6 new buyers, and they all
Yeah,
called simultaneously. You know, and you know, because you do a great job taking care of my clients. So,
of course.
you know, I recently just sent 2 over to your team, and y'all are doing an amazing job following up and communicating with them. So, I mean, it's ramped up.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what are you doing for? How do you get your clients? Is it just fear of influence? Are you buying Zillow leads? Are you buying leads? Or what are you doing
So,
with your
so I've been
marketing?
blessed. You know, I always had this statement in my head engraved that if I don't provide good customer service, I'll go out of business. So my number one priority is always to my clients, and I always tell them at the beginning of the meeting. I say, if I don't provide good customer service to you, you're not going to send me a referral. The majority of my clients are referred to me. I said, so it's my goal to make sure that you and your family achieve everything that you want in this consultation. You said you want this size house in this budget in this area because of this, you're going to get it. I said, but it takes two to tango. But at the end of the day, if I don't make you happy and you're not satisfied, you're not going to send me a client, and my business is going to starve. So it's my priority to make sure that my clients are happy, so that they can send me more referrals.
Yeah, and you know, for those realtors out there that are listening in, you know, we do quite a bit of Spanish speaking clients. Spanish speaking clients, once you get them vetted out, once you get them approved, are very loyal because once they put their trust in you, they recommend you to their entire family, friends, and network. Unlike any other group of people. That's why we love our Hispanic community because, like I said, if you do a good job, you're going to get a ton of referrals.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, there's a little bit of a culture shock, right? Because, for example, in Mexico, a lot of my Mexican clients are basically their mindset is cash only. If you don't have cash, you don't have money, you can't buy it, don't buy it. So when they come to the United States, where it's very credit driven, they don't want to get credit cards. They don't want to take out loans on anything because they were brought up with that mindset of it has to be cash. If not, then you can't buy it, you can't afford it. So once they start working with me, they kind of see that there's a little bit of a different culture here in the United States on how to obtain credit and use the credit to make you money. And once you use that to get you into a property, then you use the property to help you obtain more properties. So a lot of my first time home buyers now are investors with several properties, you know, and these are long term renters, and you know, people guided them wrong and told them wrong, and then they met with me and consulted, and now they're doing really good for themselves and their family. So
Let's talk about that. So, you know, you're talking about a lot of first-time home buyers. A lot of time are first-generation immigrants. They buy their first house, and now they're buying their second house as an investment property.
yes.
How are they doing that? I mean, where they again back to how are they getting the money? Everybody wants to know because there's a lot of people out there that are able to buy houses and don't really have the same, you know, have that money. They just need a little bit of help. How do you get them into these houses?
Yeah. So a lot of them, for the first time, once they purchase their primary residence, they've been there maybe about a year, 2 years, and then they come across certain situations where, like, maybe, you know what, we have a child on the way, we want to expand and get a larger home. We have a small 3 bedroom, but now we want a 4 bedroom,
Yep.
whatever the reason may be. So we've helped them find the next property.
Yep.
But they could get either a no down payment assistance program if they literally have no money cash on them or even reserves, and then I negotiate with the seller for them to pay for their closing costs. So they could show up at closing paying $0 for the next property. And what they do is I'll help them lease their old house that their first time property that they had purchased. We'll lease that
Yep.
out, and then the majority of the time they have cash flow. So basically, what I'm saying is whatever their mortgage is or whatever they rent out the house for. Let's say they have somebody that wants to live there, and it's $2,000 for rent. Their mortgage is usually a couple $100 less than that. So they're making a couple $100 a month while the renter's paying off for their first home that they ever purchased. And then on the new one, they paid little to no money down for the next one. And they're paying a monthly amount that they're happy with. So that's how it keeps expanding, and they keep growing their families like that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, my company has a down payment assistance program. They'll pay up to 5% of the closing costs or the down payment. As FHA to conventional, you can get in at 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
I cover that. You cover closing costs. You negotiate that with the sellers, and like you said, they're walking in with zero down, but just making payments. That's how you build equity. That's how you build wealth.
And sometimes, and sometimes they're not ready, right? So basically that consultation figures out if they're ready or not, right? And then the other aspect, like I said, having a great partner like you, David, I send them to your team, and you may let us know, hey, you know what? They need about 3 more months reserves in their account so that they can go ahead and get qualified for this loan for the next property. And then your team does an amazing job with getting my clients right, and then they can go ahead and they know what the next steps are, right? So they're not out there blind, wasting a whole year, not knowing what to do and if they're going to qualify later on or not. So it's a partnership.
So what you've grown your business every year since you started 3 years ago. What are we thinking in 2025? What are your expectations, George?
So my expectations are, I would love to help a minimum of 40 families this year, but also grow my investment portfolio, right? So investment wise, I'd like to acquire another 5 properties. Those are going to be
this year.
Yeah, yeah. Those are going to be another rentals. I want to acquire another maybe 3 flip properties. So I'll buy them, remodel them. These are usually houses that are in deep distress. They need a lot of work, new roof, flooring, all that. I'll purchase them and then remodel them, and then resell them to a family that may need it. So that's basically it. So 5 rental properties, and then 3 flips, and then maybe obtain some commercial property as well.
I'm pretty sure you're going to do it. You're going to do great things. I can't wait to see your accomplishments and stuff like that. And I love being your partner in this together. So with that being said, I know you got to go. There's people that you got to show houses to and get home to that family of yours also. So what did we not talk about that we should have talked about today, George?
I guess one of my main rules for people, even if they don't hire me, but I always tell clients or potential clients that no matter who you seek, you call to be your realtor, just make sure that they're in it for you. Make sure that they have a consultation. That way they know you and your family's full goals for the short term and long term. That way they get the right property for you. Because it's very different purchasing a property and you're going to be there for a long time than purchasing a property and you're going to sell it in a year or two. Because you don't want to be upside down in a year or two when you're selling that property. So just make sure that they're there for you. They care for you. At the end of the day, customer service is key. That's why I have one of the best referral based clients in Houston. Got to show love, and then they show love back. So that's all it is.
That's awesome, brother. Well, if the people in Houston want to find you, and I know they do, to be their agent, how do they find you? How do they get a hold of George Maldonado?
They can call me at my personal cell phone, 832-275-1513. That's my personal cell phone. It's not a dialer. It's not somebody in India picking up the phone, transferring it to somebody, and then somebody will call them a week from now. You'll get access directly to me and only me. I'll take care of you.
That's awesome, brother. And if you're watching this live, folks, and not listening, you saw that go across the lower thirds. So, George, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you for being on our podcast today. My name is David Wynn. I'm with the Mortgage Edge podcast. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you, David. You have a good one.